It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Eri BayHawks assistant coach, Perry Huang. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to work in professional sports as a coach?
I actually didn't know I wanted to work in professional sports. Honestly, I just wanted to be a college coach for when I just came out of high school. When I came out of college or graduated, I started coaching in high school and just kind of worked my way up to the college level. And so that was what I thought I wanted. And for whatever reason, I got lucky and some opportunities showed up, opportunities to work for Golden State Warriors organization in the G League. And so just one thing led to another. But no, I never really had any inkling. Obviously, it's a dream for a lot of people, but for me, I was kind of realistic at that point, and just was like, I'm going to go with what path is set for me right now, and just do the best I can. So I'm just kind of lucky to be where I'm at right now.
What was your coaching time with the Santa Cruz Warriors for the G League?
It was good. My first year, we won a championship. It was 2014, 2015. That was when the Golden State Warriors kind of quote unquote dynasty was coming into fruition. So I was actually splitting time between working at a junior college as an assistant coach and just helping the Santa Cruz Warriors with some film work and volunteering at practice and all that stuff, and just kind of getting my experience on that level. It was pretty incredible just to be around that. It was good first year experience. And I think that first 2 years with the Warriors really prepared me for what I've been doing since then. So I think it was a tremendous experience for me overall.
What was your time like coaching with the Monterey College?
Monterey Peninsula College?
Yes.
Yeah. Monterey was good. It was anybody that's kind of trying to get into coaching, that's a good area, good level to get into, because JUCO, it's just the ever-changing landscape. You have to deal with a lot of ins and outs, especially in California when you don't have scholarships. It's hard to recruit sometimes when you're in different areas, and so it's when you're competing against other schools from bigger cities, it's hard to get recruits that'll impact your program right away. So it was good to learn from that. And then obviously just having to manage a season, and sometimes you have the unforeseen circumstances with academics, players not being eligible, or just all the players that usually go into JUCO have something wrong with them. I think everyone's watched Last Chance U, so they kind of see that a lot of times JUCO kids are kind of like the misfit toys kind of thing. So they're always trying to figure out college scouts will always try to check them off and say there's something wrong with them, whether it's character issues or academic or even just mental issues sometimes. So that's always a challenge. But I think it was a good experience to learn and be able to manage all those working parts, and it prepares you because when people aren't as emotional and people aren't as high and low, you start working with pros, it's a little bit easier to manage that.
What was your time like with Cal State as the assistant men's basketball coach?
Yeah, Cal State San Marcosin was my first college job. So it was the first year of its program, and it was pretty cool to see how the school embraced us as a first year men's basketball program. And it had its challenges because we didn't have our own arena, didn't have our practice facility, so it was tough. And then we had to play a lot of road games, played a lot of games in other states, And so it was good though. It was my first year just learning the recruiting trail and being able to coach at a higher level, and then being on the court and kind of finding your voice, coaching older players, and just making sure that you're always prepared every single time. And then having it was my college coach that was our head coach there, so he kind of held us all very accountable, and I think it was a good experience overall.
How did you know that you wanted to make the jump from being a college coach to now working in the NBA G League coaching?
I think it wasn't necessarily myself. I just think it was actually the coaches for the Santa Cruz Warriors. That when I was working with them my first year, they actually, a couple of them took me to the side and just said, "Hey, have you ever thought about working in the NBA, or just at least working professional basketball?" And I think at that point they had kind of taken a liking, just at least to my work ethic, and found that I was willing to do what it takes, willing to be reliable, and being in the right place all the time. And so it's just, and being able to learn quickly too as well. And so I honestly didn't really think about it. Like I said before, I think a lot of it was just people recognizing that I was capable of it and just kind of pushing me towards that end, and hoping that there was an opportunity that would come up in the horizon. But yeah, it's kind of crazy just to see how it's come to fruition so far. So,
What was your time like working with the Northern Arizona Suns?
that was good. I was working, I worked 2 years there. One year was kind of remote. Second year was as an assistant coach. But it was good to be it was my first time being more immersed in an NBA team, I should say. The first time I was invited to training camp full time for the Phoenix Suns. So it was just good to see, at that time, I think it was Igor Kokoskov who just got hired for his 1 year there. And then he had the whole new staff there. And so it was good to get a chance to meet them and just see how they work, see how their minds work. And it was overall a great experience. Like I said, I don't think I've ever had any bad experience per se. I think even if it's a so-called negative experience, it's still a learning experience. So you can still get a lot from it. But yeah, no, it was good. I think the city is small. It's Prescott Valley. We're about 2 hours away from 2.5 hours away from Phoenix. So sometimes we get a chance, we go down to Phoenix and watch the Suns play. But we were busy on the road too as well. So but overall, I think it was fun. Unfortunately, they're now defunct NAZ Suns, but I'm glad I got a chance to be in that organization just to learn for that 1 year.
What was it like whenever you got the job with the Seattle Storm?
Yeah, that was good. It was, I was surprised to get it. I had been applying to a lot of places at that time. Just had a good connection with the head coach and hit the ground running. We weren't really expected to do much that year. We were expected to be kind of middle of the pack team. And it was Stewie, Breanna Stewart, who was heading into, I think that was at that time her third season, maybe it was her fourth season. And she was kind of on the verge of a breakout season. And then obviously Sue Bird, everybody knows about her, and then Jewel Lloyd. And then just there's a lot of surrounding pieces that were already there that a lot of people didn't know about. And so, coming in, we hit the ground running, and somehow we ended up winning the championship that year. And so it was pretty crazy just to see all those parts come together, to see how leadership is instilled in people, how to empower people, because it's not always what people think when you delegate or you empower people. Sometimes it's just really taking the reins back and letting people flourish in their roles. So I thought that was pretty neat to see people grow in that way, whether it was the staff or the players. So always, anytime you end a season with a ring, that's always a great experience for sure.
What were some of your roles and responsibility as the player development and videographer?
For me here, it's basically being in charge of certain positions. I work with a lot of the bigs or posts here, and then I'll have individual workouts before practice, and then I'll have be able to kind of chime in with players during practice and in games, and then I'll have my say in scout reports and my opinions and suggestions and stuff with our offensive coordinator and stuff like that. So and then just I break down a lot of the film and make edits for the coaches, and just kind of give my thoughts and rundowns and suggestions on how to attack teams and stuff like that. So it's definitely a lot of responsibilities for this team.
What is a typical game for the Seattle Storm as the manager and the player development and videographer?
Yeah, for me, I mean, essentially, I'm another assistant coach. A lot of times, I'll sit behind the bench in a game and just kind of be in the ear of our assistant coaches and head coach, and just kind of giving them suggestions on things, what I see and stuff like that. Before games, it's working out players, getting them on the floor, stuff like that. And then post game is just making sure getting the film or the game to the coaches and the players as well, and making the edit for the following day's film session as well. So yeah, game days are fun. I always love game days because it's a lot of work going into preparing for one game, and then you get to see how they execute the game plan.
What was it like whenever you got the job as the assistant coach for the Eri BayHawks?
It was the first year the Pelicans, because the New Orleans Pelicans had acquired the Erie BayHawks. So the Erie BayHawks have been around for a while. A couple of NBA teams have been their affiliates, but it was the first time the Pelicans had a G League team. So essentially it was like an expansion team in a sense, even though the name had been around. And so we had to put down a foundation, put down basically the infrastructure for how everything works for us. So it was that was probably one of the more challenging seasons, just how we had to come in and not have an official practice facility. And again, we have our closest airport is an hour and a half away, whether it's Buffalo or Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and Erie, Pennsylvania. So it was definitely a growing process, and I think just the way we handled it was pretty awesome, even though the season got cut short by the pandemic. But I think that helped us into this year's bubble by having that foundation of knowing each other and knowing what to expect.
What is a typical game day like for the Eri BayHawks?
Yeah, for us, it's kind of similar. For me, it's similar to what I do with the Storm. We just spread out the player development stuff a little bit different. I think we'll get in a little bit earlier and get players more individual stuff, and then we'll get them into a group setting and get workouts in. But most of the time, a day starts with a walkthrough or shoot around, whatever you want to call it. Then you have kind of the middle of the day for yourself, and then players start trickling in about 2 or 3 hours before game time. Get them on the court, get them the workouts. Obviously we have the game. For me, I do a lot of the stuff with the offense with our head coach, just suggestions and all that stuff, and just seeing what teams or how teams are playing us, and just making adjustments off of that and strategizing off of that. But outside of that, it's kind of similar to what I do both sides for the Storm and for the BayHawks.
How has your time with the Santa Cruz Warriors helped you with the BayHawks?
Helped me a lot. I think getting thrown in the fire. That my official title in Santa Cruz was coaching associate. So essentially, I didn't really have enough experience to be a head coach or assistant coach, and so a lot of the duties that I had also were intern duties. It was wiping up the floor or driving the players to and from housing, or doing laundries, things like that. But then stacking on top of those things, I was also doing assistant coach things. Like I had player development sessions, I had parts of practice, I had to be ready for film sessions, I had my own scouts that I had to prepare for. So those days were very full. Not to say that they aren't full now, but they're just full of extra things that year in Santa Cruz. So when you get kind of thrown in the fire, get out of your comfort zone a little bit, it prepares you. And so wouldn't say anything is easy now, but I just know what to expect more. And I think it's a little bit simpler to handle from my end, just because I've been through it so many times now and been able to juggle so many things at once and be able to do things efficiently.
What is something that you learned now that you didn't know before becoming a assistant coach for an NBA G League team?
Um, I think for me, it's a really, even though professional basketball is a business, I think building relationships is still very important. I think sometimes people think just in college or even the lower levels, it's more important. But, I think the higher you go, the smaller the opportunities get. And so you kind of have to take a step back and just realize everybody's fighting for the same thing. And, to be able to make it this far is kind of a tribute to that person. So I think just being able to build those relationships and finding that common ground and knowing that like everybody's worked hard to get to where they're at and finding that common ground, and whether it's players or staff and stuff like that. So I think that's probably one thing that I've learned a lot is just relationships are a big key to this industry and just to life in general. So just being around good people and making sure that you're contributing and bringing good value every day.
What is something that you learned now that you didn't know before becoming a video coordinator for the Seattle Storm?
I didn't know. I actually probably would say I didn't know how much fun I would have coaching women. I think just being a man or a male and having that kind of maybe for better for worse, having that ego and stuff like that. You just think that you have a kind of preconceived notion before you take the job. And so I think from then on, I think I learned that there's a lot of similarities and there's things that I really enjoy about the WNBA and just coaching this team. And so just the cerebral part and being able to have good conversations with all the players and just being around good people. And you can see why these players are the best in the world. And it's not just because of their skill set, it's what they bring as humans to society and being able to talk, not just basketball, but just life in general. So I think that's been a pretty life-changing experience just to be around these types of people.
What advice would you give somebody looking to work in professional sports for a sports team?
For me, I think it's just, I tell people all the time, I think you really have to define what it is you're looking for. Whatever sport whether it's football or basketball or whatever it is, it's like, how much do you actually love that sport kind of idea. So it's, if you love it enough that you wake up every day kind of thinking about it and figuring out ways to be better at it, then you're going to succeed. How much are you willing to rely and be relied upon, and kind of sacrifice? People who say that word a lot of time, how much are they willing to sacrifice? But there's a lot of people that say that trying to get into the industry, and a lot of people aren't willing to do it. And sacrifice just comes with, you're going to miss family members' birthdays, weddings, parties, whatever it is. You're going to miss friends, bar mitzvahs or some kind of birthday party or whatever. So like, how much are you willing to sacrifice those social events to pursue your dreams? A lot of people say they are willing to do that, but not a lot of people are willing to put out that type of work and that just commitment and dedication to their craft. So I think that's number one. You have to figure out what it is. And then number two, I would just say, how are you approaching basically each day? Are you just focused on the future? And which is good. It's always good to have a goal, write down the goals, have a future plan. But what are you doing at this moment, today or the next day to get closer to that? Do you have a plan, a step-by-step process to get there? So I think a lot of times there's no blueprint to get to where people want to get to. So having the plan is fine, having all that is great, but you have to kind of figure out what it is at this moment that you can do. And sometimes you got to think outside the box. It's not, people that have been in the industry will tell you, it's not just apply here. You don't go on, Indeed.com, you don't go on monsters.com and just put in, type in your job of choice and just apply. Like sometimes it's word of mouth, sometimes it's just somebody calls you. You never really know. There's no application form. So just being kind of ready for that and just prepared for that. But you never know when your opportunity is going to come, and you just kind of put your head to the grindstone, nose to the grindstone, and hope things work out for the best.
That's wonderful advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, obviously. I use Twitter more for just news for the basketball world, but for my Twitter, I actually don't even know my handle, to be honest. Let me check real quick. Twitter, it's just at Huang43, so it's PHUANGFOR 3, and then my Instagram is just it's going to be my first name, PERY_H. Those are the two platforms that I use the most on social media.
Thank you again, Perry, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with the Eri BayHawks.
Appreciate it, bud.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Perry, for your interview, and best of luck.
Thank you for having me on.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.